Okay, so in our last video, we were taking a look at how we could replace um, some of these kitchen cabinets, and we were taking a look at how profiles would work for reveals. Essentially, you have reveals for removing geometry and sweeps for adding geometry. So any template, I would recommend having a couple profiles in here that I don't have at the moment. So uh, this particular project, Glasshouse, it doesn't have some of these profile families that we've been discussing. We've been putting them together in the template, but then we were using this project to kind of illustrate how we could use profiles to remove geometry, as we've done here with this chamfered edge. But now we want to talk about using another family type called generic model. Generic models probably has the most variations to it. So the one that we're going to use is called face-based. Face-based would be similar to wall-based, but it's just a little bit more versatile in that we can put it on any surface, whether it be a ceiling, a floor, a wall. So we'll do that because what we've done is we've got this wall type in here called inside detail, and how it's used right here is probably a good way to use it. It's just a piece of millwork kind of capping off this plenum here. But where I want to make the change is in the bottom here. Let's see if we can expand this down a little bit. Just like to use my 3D view a lot, just because I find it's a little bit easier. So there's these things right here, and they're using that same wall type. So I've got this one here. It's all these different pieces, and really I'd prefer not to have that many instances of this wall type. So you can see if I hit select all instances, there's 14 of these, and that's one of them right up here. Okay. But anyway, what I'm going to do is cut a section, or use this section here to get the exact size of this as a starting point. And so right now I don't need any of this extra stuff in here. I'm just going to make my crop visible and just bring it to there. All I'm doing is getting something that I can reference for a DWG. So in order to use this, isolate it, and then hit File, Export, CAD Formats, DWG, and click on Next. And I'm just going to put this in my Downloads folder for the time being. We'll call it Section 2. I don't want any export of XREFs. If this was on a sheet, that would matter, but it doesn't for now. Okay, so I'm going to leave my temporary hide isolate on for the export. And now I'm going to go open up this family template called generic model face-based. And in here you can see it's just a starting point. You've got your center front back and your center left right, and if we flip over to a 3D view, you can see here's the example of that geometry that it would be hosted to, whatever we model in here. So that said, I'll go to insert, hit import CAD, and there's that CAD file that we just created. So I shouldn't really need to do anything here other than open this up. And I'll wait for my mouse to stop flickering here and just double tap my wheel mouse. Okay, so that DWG comes in pin. I'll unpin it and then use my move tool to get that center point. And then I'll do that again. I guess at this point, you need to know, or you need to decide, where do you actually want the insertion point to be? And just looking at this very quickly, it seems like this isn't even really doesn't even really have the symmetry that we want, right? So I probably want to place this as though I'm placing it on a center line, but probably not right here. I think what I'm going to do is align this to the bottom. And then coming back again, I'm just going to try to recenter this. So that's the snapped midpoint of this bottom line. So really what's not symmetrical is this inside part. I don't think I'm going to keep that anyway. But what this does is it gives me a skeleton for this framework. So again, RP for reference plane. And I'm going to just pick these lines here. Maybe I'll pick all of these. And I'm just going to stretch these out so that they go beyond the geometry that I'm going to be creating. All right, almost there. I just want to be able to select these reference planes without the geometry. So I'll come in here to extrusion and I'm just going to start to fill this in. And I'm using that rectangle tool so I can get all four of those align locks right off the hop. Let's do that again. And now I don't really need that. This was just to kind of get me started. Right? So I'm going to delete that DWG. And now I've got this geometry here. And rather than use a reference plane in an elevation view to control the thickness of the frame, I'm going to use this extrusion end with an associated parameter called panel frame thickness. And then I'm going to duplicate this guy, say align to same place, and modify this extrusion, removing the outer border. And then this one is going to have a different one called inner panel thickness. And we'll put a formula to that so that the inner panel thickness is the panel frame thickness divided by 2. So whatever this is, which I'm going to make 19, will be twice the size. So there we go. All right. So now I should have 2 pieces of geometry here. So now you would want to have material on both of these. So the material for the outer one, we'll associate that and call that panel frame material. And then do the same thing on this one. Inner panel material. And this way, when we load this into the project, we can make this whatever we want it to be. So at this point, you could go in and start to articulate this a little bit more, but I think I'm happy with that. So I'm going to save this family. I'll save it just in here as well, and I'll call it frame box. Now we load this back into our project and we go to our section. I'm going to just reset my visibility and uncrop this view. Now I want this panel to go directly onto the face of this wall, so I can ensure that by setting the work plane. I pick that face, hover over it. I know that when I type CM and get my frame box here, I put that in, it goes right on top. Okay. So now I should be able to just copy that in place to the rest of them. And we can see the inconsistencies here. I'm just going to place this one out here and then use this line. Okay, so what I was trying to illustrate was when we highlight these, we can see right off the bat that the symmetry of that original wall was kind of messed up. And not only was it not messed up, these aren't all uniform, right? So now I can just simply delete that wall. And we should get rid of all of these. I'll just hide these for the time being.